Welcome to Women's Radio. I'm Pat Barrett, and I am so excited to bring you my guest today. You're really going to enjoy this. I'll have to tell you the title of the book that he has just written and that you will be able to find. It is called Sleep Well, Take Risks, and Squish the Peas: Secrets from the Science of Toddlers for a Happier and More Successful Way of Life. This book is not written for parents necessarily. This book is written for adults who need to get back in touch with their toddler, their inner toddler, as it were. And you might be surprised to learn that the author is also a medical doctor, and he is a doctor of pediatrics. He is a pediatric emergency medicine doc at McMaster's Children's Hospital in Hamilton, Ontario. So it is my great pleasure to welcome Dr. Hasan Merali to Women's Radio. Welcome, Dr. Merali.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here. And I like your intro about, getting in touch with our inner toddler. A lot of what we're going to talk about today is really getting back to the people we used to be in a lot of good ways.
I agree. Yes. Well, let me start things off because I think since you have brought up in the materials that I've read something about how you help adults relate to the actions and the importance of the actions of toddlers and how they relate to other people. And you use this often in business settings, but with a lot of other adults, how people can relate using some of these examples. Let's start. How in the world do you relate a toddler's experience to a working environment?
Yeah, I think some of the lessons we can learn from toddlers are so incredibly important for the workplace. And I actually dedicate half of my book to these lessons and how they're applicable. One thing that comes to mind is their confidence and their ability to take risks. I have a 3-year-old, and she greets me in the morning. She's happy to see me. But the next thing she does is she marches over to the mirror and she gives herself a big high five because she has the confidence that that is going to be a great day and she can really do anything. And in my line of work as a pediatric ER doctor, I take care of a lot of young children with fractures because they don't have the mindset of, oh, I don't think I can do this new thing. No, they just dive right in. And sure, there are some setbacks with fractures and other issues, but the way they're able to learn and grow, and the same thing is true for adults, if we were able to take risks and be confident like they are, is truly incredible.
Yeah, where do we lose that? That's kind of interesting, isn't it? What happens in our environment that we change so radically and we're so afraid as we get older? That's really sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it happens over time. It happens to all of us. But our brains are also changing all the time. And so we're
That's true.
able, if we want to, learn from them and get back to that. And for adults, not only has it been shown to help with career growth, but also with innovation. So I think these
Ah,
qualities that toddlers demonstrate of taking risks and the confidence that they have are really important for us to bring back into our lives, especially at the workplace.
well, they have a lot of varying dispositions and so forth. One is that a lot of people think, oh, toddlers, tantrums. So that's one set of things. The other is that they also get into spaces where they do open-eyed staring, which I've read something about, which allows them to integrate information and get to this calm, peaceful place on the inside, much like an
That
open-eyed meditation, as it were. So I'd love for you to talk about some of those things.
Yeah, that's so first, yeah, let me deal with tantrums because this comes up a lot. And I think toddlers unfairly get this label called terrible twos, but they're not terrible at all. They're actually, I would call terrific twos. Tantrums are real. They're very dramatic. And I think why they get this reputation is because that's when people notice them. They're very loud, they're very dramatic, but truly the median time they last is 3 minutes. The very, very most for a toddler would be maybe 10 minutes, and that would be once a day. But they're awake for 12 to 13 hours a day. So what are they doing for the rest of the time? I think
Right.
is really where I like to focus on and really talk about in the book because there's so much more that they do in the rest of the time that they're awake, which really defines them.
I agree.
And your next question about this open-eyed staring, I haven't read the data on that, but it makes me think about how toddlers interact with the world that we somehow miss because as we get older, our brains get a little bit more efficient and we're able to filter out a lot of information because we think in a very goal-directed way and we have objectives for all of these
Yes.
activities that we have to do or to-do lists, for example. But toddlers don't have that. They're not thinking that much about beyond tomorrow. And so they're able to live in the moment. They take in as much information as they possibly can. And that is special because they're able to do things without objectives, like play and laugh more. Two things that we know if we were able to bring back a little more in our lives would decrease our stress and increase our happiness.
I think it's one of the reasons I think that people, regardless of whether they have had children or have children, are drawn to children because children have a native joy. And I think that we all crave to feel like that again. And I think that we can. I think it takes a little more work when you get older to get back to that state. But I think that your book makes the point really clearly that we want that state too.
Absolutely. It's a state that's filled with joy and they bring joy to others. So even if we're not around them, just thinking about them and what they do, I think is really important. And actually there's a nice little exercise maybe I can have your listeners try because this is from a study. There was a group of undergraduate students and they were told a hypothetical situation. You have the day off, plan your day. And the only difference was that half of them were told, think like a child, and the other half wasn't. And the
Oh,
differences were amazing. You know, the group that were adults, they said they would check their email, they might hop into work, they were going to do things off their to-do list like cleaning. But the same people, same group of people who thought as a child were visiting friends and family, going to a pet store, and playing for most of that time. And so I would recommend the next time you have a little bit of time off, and I know that's hard. It doesn't have to be a long period of time, but think about what childhood you would do in that time and actually do that thing and see what happens.
I know. I think just being able to act in the moment to do the thing that you feel drawn to do is very special. I had to reteach myself to do that. For instance, like you're driving and
Mm.
you come to a crossroads and here's this road to the right and you don't exactly know where it goes. Maybe you think you have a little more knowledge about the one on the left, but you really, really want to go down the one on the right, see what's down there. How
Yeah.
often do we ever do that, right? And almost
Yeah, no,
always
it's a good
wonderful
one.
things happen.
Yeah, and that's a metaphor for life. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what are some of the things that in your experience really drew you to this study? And it is, and I know that it's a joy for you, but also it has apparently been working over a long period of time. So, what are some of the things, or what are some of the stories that really impacted you, that really pushed you in this direction?
Yeah, I've been lucky. I get to work with young children, and I've been in pediatrics for about 15 years now. And over the years, I have more brief interactions with kids because I'm an ER doctor, but I've had all of these moments where I've just thought about how wonderful of a way they approach life. And some of the things that they do are really can really help us in our own lives. One example I think of is I was caring for an older child. She was a teenager, but her younger sister was there. She was about 3 years old, and she was
Hmm.
just learning to use scissors. And so she had this piece of paper, and she had her safety scissors in the other hand, and was talking out loud to herself. She was saying left, right, push, move out loud. And this made me go back and think about the toddlers I interacted with. And I did a lot of reading about this, and it actually has become a whole chapter on self-talk. So if you're
Yes.
ever around a toddler, they are just talking to themselves almost constantly about not only what they're doing, but they also encourage themselves. They'll say, good job, way to go. And if we apply that to our adult selves, it's actually incredible. Like adults who talk to
You're right.
themselves, yeah, can even score more shots in basketball. But I think most importantly, and what the data shows, is that it can help with emotional regulation. And so we can actually feel
Yes.
less anxious in stressful situations. And people might be shy to do this out loud, and so there's good news. You do not have to do this out loud. You can do it. You can do it silently, as long as. And the key is you need to talk to yourself in second or third person. And if you're able to do that in
Oh,
stressful
interesting.
situations, it can be incredibly calming.
I'm just, my mind wandered as you were even talking that maybe this could help people who are on the verge of thinking about committing suicide. There's so much more suicide than I've ever heard of before. And I think it's because people have really bad self-talk. And I love what you said about your daughter going up to the mirror and giving herself a high five. Um, we especially there's a joke about the difference between women and men, where women go look in the mirror and they say, oh, my hair is not right, my makeup is a little crooked over on that side, and so forth, and they just go through the list of everything that isn't right. And men go up to the mirror and they lean back and they say, you're the man.
Yeah,
And I
and
think that women ought to be more like that.
and it's a good point. And here's one tip that I have for that, because it is a big problem, this negative self-talk, as you say. So instead of talking to yourself, talk to yourself as if you were talking to a friend. So do
Okay.
do the self-talk, but you're saying your name, but it's as if you're talking to a friend, because some of the things we say to ourselves, we would never actually say to a friend. And so,
Mm.
having that shift a little bit about being a little bit more encouraging and kind, but to yourself, I think is very helpful.
I agree. I think altogether learning to love yourself is the trip of life. And because how did we get to the place where we thought, just that we weren't worth that much, that we were less than someone else, that we are not incredible, that it just seems, I guess it's been a lot of teaching along the way. So we're just going to have to be more disciplined. And I think that the examples that you give in your book help us to realize really that's the way we started. We need to get back there a little bit.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. It's this mindset of approaching life with the focus on yourself in terms of learning, and with others, building relationships, having that confidence, taking the risks, approaching life with a little bit more play, all the things that can infuse more, I think, happiness and joy into our lives.
Amen. Well, I want to repeat the name of your book again. I don't want anyone to leave here and not know the name of the book. It's called Sleep Well, Take Risks, and Squish the Peas: Secrets from the Science of Toddlers for a Happier and More Successful Way of Life. And I think that we're all looking for that. And this book is meant for us. So please go pick up your copy. It's now on the newsstands and Amazon, et cetera, et cetera. And Dr. Merali, thank you so much for being my guest and sharing your book and your wisdom. And please come back.
Oh, thank you so much. It was nice to be here. And I'll just say to your listeners, I'm always looking for new ways we can learn from young children. So if you have any stories to share from kids you've been around, please do connect with me on X or on LinkedIn or on Facebook.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.